The distress beacon had been screaming into the void for 72 hours. Elsa pressed her forehead against the frozen viewport of the Meridian's grace, watching ice crystals spread across the reinforced glass like skeletal fingers. Behind her, the ship's environmental systems wheezed their final breaths, each cycle weaker than the last. The temperature had dropped to -15 degrees Celsius in the habitation module. In another 6 hours, it would be incompatible with Zeltharian physiology entirely. Still nothing. Kievan's voice crackled through her comm implant, distorted by failing power reserves. Nothing, Elsa confirmed, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The consortium fleet won't reach this sector for another week. We'll be frozen corpses long before then. She closed her 4 eyes, 2 sets blinking independently in the dim emergency lighting. The Meridian's grace had been a diplomatic courier, fast and lightly armed, perfect for carrying sensitive negotiations between the Zeltharian Assembly and the Torvik Confederacy. Perfect, that is, until the Kresh raiders had ambushed them at the edge of the Helix Nebula. The raiders had disabled their drives with electromagnetic pulse weapons, stripped the ship of anything valuable, and left them drifting in the cosmic wasteland between star systems. Standard pirate procedure. Clean, efficient, and utterly fatal for the victims. We could try the escape pods again, Kievan suggested, though they both knew it was pointless. The Kresh had fused the launch mechanisms. A petty cruelty. Why waste ammunition when the void would kill just as effectively? Elsa moved through the corridor, her emergency thermal suit barely keeping hypothermia at bay. She found Kievan in the engine room, his green-scaled hands working futilely at a tangle of severed power conduits. His crest had flattened against his skull, a Zeltharian stress response she'd seen too many times in the past 3 days. The backup fusion cell is completely dead, he reported, not looking up from his work. I can't even get enough power to boost the distress signal. We're running on emergency batteries that were meant to last 6 hours, not 3 days. Then we wait, Elsa said quietly. We wait and hope. Hope for what? Kievan's laugh was bitter. We're in the middle of nowhere. This sector isn't scheduled for patrol for months. The consortium doesn't even classify this region as navigable space. It's just empty void between the trade lanes. He was right, of course. They'd been carrying secret diplomatic correspondence, which meant traveling off the standard routes. Privacy had become a death sentence. Elsa sat beside him on the frozen deck plates, feeling the cold seep through her suit. My grandmother used to tell me stories, she said, about the old wars before the consortium formed. She said the universe always surprised you when you needed it most. Fairy tales, Kievan muttered, but there was no real venom in it. They were both too cold, too tired, too close to giving up. The ship groaned around them, metal contracting in the absolute cold of space. Somewhere in the distance, a bulkhead finally gave way with a sound like a cannon shot. Another compartment lost to vacuum. Elsa checked her chronometer. 4 hours of viable life support remaining. Maybe 5 if they stopped moving, lowered their metabolism, embraced the cold. I'm sorry I got you into this, she said suddenly. You didn't have to volunteer for diplomatic courier duty. Kievan's crest rose slightly, the Zeltharian equivalent of a sad smile. Are you joking? This assignment was my ticket to the core worlds. 6 months of boring milk runs and I'd have had enough credits to— He stopped. It didn't matter now what he'd planned. They sat in silence, listening to the ship die around them. Then the sensors pinged. It was so faint Elsa thought she'd imagined it. But Kievan's head snapped up, his tactical implant interfacing with the ship's barely functional sensor array. Contact, he whispered. Single vessel bearing 270 range. I can't get an accurate reading. The sensors are too degraded. Elsa scrambled to her feet, rushing back to the bridge on legs that had gone numb with cold. She threw herself into the sensor station, her frozen fingers fumbling with the controls. There, a gravity signature, massive and moving fast. Her blood ran cold for a different reason now. "Crash?" she asked. "Signature's wrong," Kevin said, appearing beside her. "Too big, too angular. That mass displacement doesn't match any known crash vessel configuration." The contact was approaching directly, which meant they'd detected the distress beacon. Elsa's mind raced through possibilities. Salvagers, smugglers, another pirate clan coming to pick over what the Kresh had left behind. "Should we cut the beacon?" Kevin asked. "With what power?" Elsa shook her head. "Besides, what's the worst they can do? Kill us slightly faster." The vessel was close now, close enough that even their crippled sensors could resolve basic details. Elsa stared at the readout, unable to process what she was seeing. That's a warship," Kevin breathed. "Capital class, maybe heavy cruiser displacement, but the configuration is..." "Human," Elsa finished, her voice barely a whisper. They both stared at the sensor display. The vessel was undeniably human in design. Those aggressive lines, the bristling weapon emplacements, the oversized reactor signature that humans favored for their inexplicable love of overpowered systems. "But there are no human colonies in this sector," Kevin said. "The nearest human space is 3 months away at standard drive speeds. What would a human warship be doing here?" The comm system crackled to life, startling them both. A voice emerged from the speakers, rough and speaking heavily accented galactic standard. "Unidentified vessel Meridian's Grace. This is the UHSV Indomitable, Captain Sarah Chen commanding. We've received your distress signal. Hold position and prepare for emergency assistance." Elsa and Kevin exchanged shocked glances. The voice was female, human, and impossibly confident given the circumstances. "UHSV Indomitable, this is the Meridian's Grace," Elsa responded, fighting to keep her voice steady. We're grateful for any assistance. Our environmental systems are critical. We have maybe 4 hours of viable life support remaining." There was a pause. Then, "Understood, Grace. We're detecting heavy damage to your hull. Looks like crash work. You're going to want to brace yourselves. We're coming in hot." "Coming in hot," Kevin repeated. "What does that?" The Indomitable dropped out of superluminal transit, barely 500 meters from their position. The viewport lit up like a newborn star as the massive human warship materialized from folded space, its hull still glowing with Cherenkov radiation from the transition. Elsa felt her jaw drop. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of a standard consortium cruiser, bristling with weapons batteries and armored to a degree that seemed almost paranoid. More importantly, it had emerged from FTL practically on top of them, a maneuver that would have had any consortium navigator court-martialed for recklessness. "Humans," Kevin muttered. "Of course they'd navigate like they're personally insulting the laws of physics." "Grace, we're deploying emergency umbilical now. Estimate hard dock in 90 seconds. Do you have any personnel who need immediate medical attention?" "Negative, Indomitable," Elsa replied. "Just extreme hypothermia and some minor injuries from the initial attack." "Copy that. Medical team is standing by anyway. You know how humans are, we like to overdo everything." Despite everything, Elsa found herself smiling. The human's casual confidence was infectious. Through the viewport, she watched as the Indomitable maneuvered with impossible precision for something so large. Maneuvering thrusters that looked like they could power a small shuttle fired in coordinated bursts, walking the massive warship into position. A docking umbilical extended from its hull, reaching toward the Meridian's Grace like a lifeline from heaven. The magnetic locks engaged with a solid thunk that Elsa felt through the deck plates. Immediately, she heard the hiss of pressure equalization, and wonderfully, impossibly, warm air began flowing into their dying ship. "Docking complete," the human captain announced. "Hatches cycling now. Welcome aboard the Indomitable, folks. Let's get you somewhere warm." The airlock opened, revealing 3 humans in what Elsa recognized as emergency rescue gear. The lead human was a tall woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair, a medical scanner already in her hands. "I'm Dr. Amara Akoy," she said, her galactic standard flawless. "You both look like hell, if you'll pardon my saying so. Let's get you to medbay before you freeze to death on my watch." As they stumbled through the umbilical into the warm, brightly lit corridors of the human warship, Elsa felt tears forming in her eyes, 2 sets simultaneously, the Zeltharian physiological response to overwhelming emotion. The Indomitable's interior was organized chaos. Crew members rushed past with purpose, and every surface seemed to hum with barely contained energy. The air was warm, almost hot by Zeltharian standards, and thick with oxygen. Pure, wonderful, life-giving oxygen. Dr. Akoy guided them to medbay, keeping up a steady stream of reassuring conversation. "You picked a hell of a place to break down," she said cheerfully. "This sector's supposed to be empty. If we hadn't been running a deep patrol, you'd have been out here for months." "Deep patrol?" Kevin asked through chattering teeth. "In neutral space." "Long story," the doctor replied, helping him onto a medical bed. "Short version, we're hunting Kresh raiders. Same ones who hit you, most likely. 3rd diplomatic vessel they've attacked this quarter." Elsa's head swam as the warmth of the medbay began to work its magic on her hypothermic body. "But human space is so far from here. How did you?" "New drive system," Dr. Akoy said with obvious pride. "Still classified, but let's just say we can cross what used to be 3 months of travel in about a week now. The Admiralty decided to put it to good use hunting pirates in the neutral zones." A new voice entered the conversation, and making friends, apparently. Elsa turned to see a human male in a captain's uniform enter medbay. He was shorter than Dr. Akoy, with graying hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. Captain Chen, Elsa presumed, though the voice didn't match. "Captain Rodriguez," he introduced himself with a slight bow, a human gesture of respect. "Second officer. Captain Chen sends her regards, but she's currently busy plotting an intercept course for your Kresh friends." "Intercept course?" Elsa sat up straighter despite Dr. Akoy's protests. "You're going after them." Rodriguez's smile hardened into something predatory. "Ma'am, those pirates attacked a diplomatic vessel under consortium protection. That makes it our business. Besides, we didn't come all this way just to patch up their victims. We came to make sure they don't create any more." Over the next hour, as Dr. Akoy worked to restore their core temperatures and treat their injuries, Elsa and Kevin learned the full story. The Indomitable was part of a new human initiative, deep space anti-piracy patrols using their revolutionary new faster-than-light drives. The Kresh had been terrorizing the neutral zones for years, operating in regions too remote for regular consortium patrols to reach. Humans, with their typical disregard for impossible logistics, had decided to bring the fight to them. "We've been tracking this particular raider clan for 2 weeks, Rodriguez explained. "They hit you, then jumped to a scrap station in the void deep. We've got them pinned down. Should be wrapping up the operation within the next 72 hours. Kevin's crest rose in surprise. "You're going after a Kresh stronghold, with 1 ship." Rodriguez's grin widened. "You haven't seen what this ship can do. We humans might be the new kids in the consortium, but we learned our engineering from fighting each other for a few thousand years. We got very good at building things that break other things." Later, after they'd been fed, warmed, and given quarters aboard the Indomitable, Elsa stood in an observation lounge, watching stars streak past as the warship moved at speeds that would have seemed magical just a generation ago. Kevin joined her, looking far more alive than he had just hours before. "We would have died," he said quietly, "if they hadn't come." "I know. The odds of a human warship being in exactly the right place, at exactly the right time." "I know." Kevin was quiet for a moment. Then, your grandmother's stories about the universe surprising you when you need it most. Elsa smiled, all four eyes fixed on the impossible vessel that had saved them. Maybe not just fairy tales after all. Through the viewport, the stars streamed past like tears of light, and somewhere ahead in the darkness, a human warship carried hope into the void, overpowered, overarmed, and absolutely, impossibly there when no one else could be. The end.